Welcome to the Berwick Mechanics Institute and Free Library. My name is Judith Dwyer and I'm one of the managers of the library, and Corinne Brewis is the president of the Berwick Mechanics Institute and Free Library Committee. What we are proposing to show you is how the heritage of an institution is an integral part of its continuing existence. You've seen the outside of the building, and you would note that the start of the organisation started in 1862. It moved to this site in the 1880s. The land for the library was donated by Robert Bain, who was the owner of the Border Inn Hotel, and it was donated on a 500-year lease on condition that it was used exclusively as a mechanics institute and public library. Yeah, well, the feature of the library is the support of the community. The library is run by volunteers. On duty this morning is Debbie and Carol. There's over 30 volunteers that run the library. Yes, the original foundations of Mechanics Institute was to provide a meeting place and a library and lectures, and it came out of the community with the early settlers. And often, as I say, the land was donated here. You saw that in many of them, and you had the community support. So here, as I say, we have the volunteers running the library. We also have a lot of donations of books. We're buying books too. So there's continuing donations of books to the library, which help support the library. But I think also we're providing a book rescue for many people who over the years have developed wonderful personal collections that don't want to just throw them out, and we rehouse them. This is another part of the library. This is the children's section, the picture book section. The library has story times for preschoolers. I believe the new ones are very young. We have babies at the moment. But we also have a popular general collection, and it is a very vibrant community library. But when it was expanded in 1980, a mezzanine floor was added with the particular purpose and the vision of the president at the time, Dr. Noel Stevenson, that the mezzanine floor would provide space to store and display the library's historic collections.
This is a donation of 3 volumes that came to the library in 2015, and the way they came was pure chance. I have an interest in researching family history and local history, and was researching an area near Mansfield and looking at the local families. At an Anzac dawn service, I met a family called Pateman. Soon discovered one of their ancestors, Harriet Halligan, married James Bain, the eldest son of Robert Bain, who's responsible for donating the land here. They held 3 volumes that they had acquired through their great aunt, the Bain family Bible, and 2 ledgers. And they were looking for homes for them, and we gratefully accepted them as donations. So this ledger is from Robert Bain's youngest son, Donald Bain, who was an estate agent in Berwick. This is a ledger from the Border Hotel, which was the original name for the Berwick Inn, and this is the Bain family Bible. It was printed in 1856 in Scotland. I'm not sure how it arrived here, maybe by somebody else, because Robert Bain came in 1855. But the names of the family, marriages, births and deaths are handwritten in it. The Bible was in poor condition. The front cover was detached, and we applied for a heritage grant to have it restored. Unfortunately, this was not successful, so the committee decided to use some funds from a bequest to have the Bible restored, and it's a particularly good job, as you can see. And the Pateman family, we're very grateful to them for letting us have their family records. It's something they all get displayed fairly frequently, and it's something that we can show from our very earliest times. I think a lot of libraries wouldn't have anything as old as this to show where they've come from to where they are now.
The library's retained a selection of its 19th century collection, and we still have some of the book lists. So while looking at book lists are really interesting to see what was being read by people, coming and looking at the books themselves also reveals other factors. For example, the top shelf we have the Waverley novels, but you can see that they weren't all as popular, and you can see the popular ones are very worn out. And this shows up quite clearly when you've actually got the books there. There's a lot of interest at the moment in the reading of what people were reading in the 19th century. I think some of it's come from the fact of people doing their family history, and we have the records of what people borrowed and when they returned them. There's also been research done by scholars. For example, the European Research Council funded a project at the University College Dublin, and that project was investigating the circulation of books in the 19th century, how they were moving between the colonies, and also who were the suppliers. We had a Dr. Sarah Common came, and she examined the collections of the Mechanics Institutes across Victoria that were in that period. We're looking at particular editions and who the suppliers were in London. In the 19th century, a lot of novels were serialised in publications like the Cornhill magazine, the Templars Bar, and All the Year Round. This was the one, by the time the library here was formed, Charles Dickens' son was running it. But you have some of the like Trollope's The Duke's Children was serialised first in this is in 1879 to 1880. One of the unique collections that we have at the Berwick Library is the private library of Lord and Lady Casey, which is on this side of the mezzanine. The collection's been arranged to reflect their lives and interests. So we know that they're both very interested in flying. So we have a section on the aviation books that includes the learning to fly books. Even got some of the maps from when they were flying in the United States when he was the ambassador to the United States in the early 1940s.
What would be your favourite book here, do you think?
Oh, the one.
Do you have a favourite one of Lord Casey's collection?
Yes, it's the one that's signed by Gandhi.
What?
So that is down the other end. We want to go down to the other and I'll show you them. Can you stop filming? Cataloguing this collection when I held this first, and to realise that you're holding a book that Gandhi signed with Kind Regards Gandhi, Christmas Eve 1945.
Wow.
There's also a photo that shows the two of them together.
Yeah, that is just
that
an
time.
amazing treasure, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, as someone you'd be aware that Lord Casey was Governor General of Australia, but earlier he had been the Governor of Bengal, and his interest in India was is well recognised.
Oh, quite a lot of
Yes.
Gandhi biographies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also this one, this is all the letters. And this was the Gandhi, he used to write a lot, Sundar Ghosh wrote a lot of letters to, and there's letters between Gandhi and Casey when he was, but this was in 1967.
Oh, and of
And
course,
it's the books themselves, but it's also the inscriptions in them and who they're from. The authors gave them books when they wrote books. They're quite famous people. And the books were used as thank you notes when they had visits. The
okay.
ambassador to Australia, his wife wrote a thank you and wrote it on the book of their the governor's. So her thank you note is written in President's country because Johnson. So there's the thank you note for their hospitality, because the President at that time, Johnson, who was also from the same county.
Oh, so this is signed by Lady Casey, London, 6th of October 1945.
45. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. That's just
We know that Casey was with Lord Bridges when at Gallipoli, and also the man with the donkey, which you're all familiar with the story of the donkey. But then here, this copy was sent to him. This book, sir, for you and your perusal, as we both knew Duffy Simpson and his donkey on the shores of Gallipoli. Particularly, my lord, page 44, which mentions General Bridges, Colonel White and Lieutenant R.G. Casey. Hope you like it, sir. God bless you and Lady Casey.
So was there anybody thought he was interested in that? Was there one at the top?
Do I have to
like
confess that I didn't know much about Lord Casey at all?
Yeah.
But doing this collection brought so much more to life, and the whole range of their interests. I think now there's a letter. This was interesting. There's this one that when you open this one up, there's notes in the back of it, and I don't know whether he was drafting out a speech when he wrote this, but it's discussing to know the principles of British foreign policy. Was it just opportunism, or was it based on policy? And there's a couple that I think may have been things he was preparing for speeches. That if you had a look, there's words that you think if you matched with his speeches, that you would may find that this was used in the actual speech that he wrote later. The other one that's interesting is this one, War Without Guns. This has come from Keith Murdoch, mid-air, 15th of 1944, near Cocos, those over the India, and he's written a note, chapter 6, and the last 4 worth reading. So, there's
Chapter 6.
yes. And there's often notes in the books, like there's one, I haven't found the book where Casey has written, this must be a donation because the notes aren't mine. He obviously disagreed with the notes. But they did, in fact, both of them wrote on the books. Lady Casey often corrected things in her books, the books that she had.
Like a true library patron, isn't it?
Well, no, they had their own books. Books were part of their everyday life. That's the thing that actually does show out. The Caseys, they had plenty of books, and they used books, and they were just part of their everyday life and wrote all over them. The collection donated by the Casey family after Lord and Lady Casey had died also included some silk paintings by Alice Rowan. Alice Rowan was an aunt of Lady Casey. She was her mother's older sister, and she has beautiful silk paintings. This one was a 3-fold room divider, but Lady Casey's very practical, and she had sewed it together and was using it as a bedspread. Because Alice Rowan, she took, also very well known, she took her paintings to Windsor, and Queen Victoria kept 3 of her paintings to have made into a fire screen for her bedroom. Now, if you'd like to know more about the library and its history and what it's doing now, I can recommend this book by Richard Myers. This copy's in your local library. I'd like to finish with a quote from Dr. Noel Stevenson, who was president when the library was expanded to this size. And he said, "Our work is not finished, but it will stand as a tribute to people of vision who have seen the value of the past and who see the value of the future."